Welcome to the PaleyFest Fall TV Previews. I'm Damian Holbrook, senior writer for TV Guide Magazine and TV Insider, and I'm delighted to be hosting this special conversation celebrating the CW's Walker Independence, premiering October 6th. And thanks to Citi, the festival's official card and official sponsor, for their help making this program possible. Today, we are thrilled to welcome the members of the series cast from Walker Independence. Joining us today are Katherine McNamara, who plays Abby, Matt Barr, who plays Hoyt, Katie Findlay, who plays Kate, Greg Hovanessian, who plays Tom, Philemon Chambers, who plays Augustus, Justin Johnson Cortez, who plays Talion, Lawrence Cow, who plays Kai, Gabriela Quezada, who plays Lucia, and Seamus Fahey, showrunner and executive producer, along with Jared Padalecki, executive producer. Welcome everyone watching. Let's start the program. Seamus and Jared, look at this cast. This is ridiculous. It's Seamus, I heard that you're the one that loves Westerns. Like this is your dream. So talk to me about what it was like putting together this cast for the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think, don't we all love Westerns a little bit? I mean, Jared's from Texas, so for God's sake, if he doesn't love Westerns. But yeah, I mean, we obviously wanted to put together a cast that was right for the role, but it was important to all of us that we were looking, a little bit beyond that and just trying to do our due diligence, making sure everybody checked out, being like great people. And honestly, we talked about it before, but everyone crushed their audition. Everyone here is number one choice. And then in follow-up conversations, it was just one of those things where it just felt too good to be true. Like everyone just is really good people, kind-hearted, kick-ass people. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but let's start that way. So it was something that, they embodied these Western characters at the same time, kind of added a little bit of a modern sensibility, a little bit of a remix to the preceding, if you will.
And now, Jared, the mothership is only, you're only going into your third season.
Yeah.
When did you start thinking about spinoffs or prequels?
Well, I don't know if we touched on this, but that was Seamus's idea, and he actually came to us with it before Walker aired. He kind of said, like, "Hey, I got an idea." Like, right? Well, he kind of said it like this.
It's always spot on. Just
why are you so good at this, Jared?
So he approached Anna and the gang with this idea, and we thought, it sounds amazing. Let's see where we go with it. Selfishly, I didn't want him to leave Walker, but we still have him there, looking at everything and being a mother hen of sorts. So that was
favorite title.
Kudos to Seamus. And I think Walker, both the mothership and now Independence, or Windy as we call it, it's very creatively inviting. You have an idea, spit it out. And sometimes it'll be like, oh, that's great. Let's use it. And sometimes it's like, well, that doesn't work because in a couple episodes we're going to do this. And so that would conflict. And so it's just a very, Anna and Seamus have both created these writers' rooms where, anything is welcome, whether or not it ends up making it to the page and to the screen or not.
And now that you've seen what this cast can do and what this story is becoming, do you kind of kick yourself thinking, how do I get onto this show for even an episode?
So, I am so legitimately jealous. I got to go visit set last week for a couple of days and be there and see the filming, and it was just so cool. It's so beautiful. It's so picturesque. The set and the setting are outstanding. I got to walk around Independence, see a lot of the shooting, and was just going like, man, this is more fun than my show. I love it.
Always green. The grass is always greener.
Yeah, well, the grass is a lot greener in Santa Fe, at least right now.
Yeah. A lot of rain. And now, Seamus, why this story, and why from Abby's point of view?
Well, a lot of this was honestly in my head for a while, like this kind of Western for a while. And like Jared was saying, it was just kind of chomping at the bit, waiting for the right opportunity. And I mean, it was a little ridiculous that before Walker even aired, I'm like, what if? But thank God all the producers were like, there might be something there. And it felt like Walker was starting one way with, Jared's point of view and flipping it. Felt like the right thing to do. If I was going to come out of Western and have it be a little bit of a remix, a little bit of a deconstruction of what we're used to, that felt like the first step to take. And shifting the point of view when we were looking at the first generation Walkers, there's obviously that felt like the most obvious thing to do. So it's just kind of taking the expectations and be like, here's what people might think about the first generation Walkers. Right. How do we mess it up? How do we kind of subvert them? How do we kind of tweak it a little bit where it's a little askew? So that was the first big choice. And we just kind of kept going from there.
This question actually comes from the festival sponsor, City, and it's for Kat. You've said that the show is a little bit country and a little bit Western, and that the cast has agreed, all of you, that this is not your mother's Western. How do you, Kat, and the rest of the cast kind of bring this theme to life?
I think what Seamus and Jared both said is very true. Each one of us brings that sort of classic element to it, and we all understand these characters from the traditional Western perspective. But what's so wonderful about the way it's written and what everyone is bringing to it is that there's something fresh and something new, and we're given this opportunity to reinvent the wagon wheel in a way, and bring something new to it. But in particular, when I first read the script, you don't see a lot of female characters in the 1870s that have agency and that have drive and that are not your traditional cookie cutter shrinking violet damsel in distress. And Abby is certainly not that. Even though in the first 15 minutes of the show her entire life goes up in flames, she doesn't fall into victimhood. She chooses to start a new life and to start over and take that step and gain her own independence, for lack of a better word.
There's a really kind of contemporary stylized way that we're making this show, which I think modern audiences will connect with, and they'll relate to. But what Seamus has done a great job of is those kind of classic, Western DNA things are sort of, those little nuggets of that are in there. So whether you're new to Westerns or you've been watching them for, 85 years, I think you'll sort of appreciate both sides of that.
Yeah, as someone who's not a huge Western fan, this was not the Western I was expecting at all. It surprised me. It delighted me. I thought the characters were super fun, really interesting. And I have to say, not talking about people ahead of their time or born out of their time. I honestly feel like you should have been born in the 1890s. If there's anyone who should have been a cowboy, it is Matt Barr.
He suits it.
I don't think I'm even acting in this show, am I? I'm just sort of waking up and walking on the set.
Someone who drives to the set every morning, puts him down and goes, hey,
exactly. You are now a and the rage that we had when you were killed off on Walker. Because it was honestly oh, no, you don't understand. This role, he was literally born to play this role. Right. And now you're playing the ancestor of the role you were born to play.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember when Seamus called me and said, we're going to kill you. And I went, totally get it. This is a great Shakespearean drama here, but I think I'm born to play this guy. I'm going to miss him a lot. I was grieving it, It was so much fun. And Jared and I had so much fun, just kind of, Luke Skywalker and Han Soloing it,
Yeah.
So I'm glad to keep the fun going.
Whoever is the player for Matt Barr's simulation character is doing a great job.
Well, that's you say the Luke and Han, but I'm looking at Hoyt and Callian as possibly a Butch and Sundance situation. So Justin, how is Callian going to fit into this world? Because he's a guy who literally won't come into the town.
Yeah, no, that's been the tricky part, and that we've had a lot of conversation about that. Everyone's going to have to wait and see. Obviously, I can't give you anything there, man. Good try, though. But to get to the Hoyt and Callian of it all, it's one of my favorite dynamics for sure. It's interesting because I grew up And I wanted to be the Hoyt character. You know, I look at Matt every day on set and I'm just like, man, look at him. I'm a character. It's like amazing. Having so much fun. I'm like, oh, wow, look at, I'm doing this too. And I think that's something that was really different about this that I got really excited about. You know, the Indian character gets to kind of be up there on that level with the cowboy. And there's a lot of push and pull and a lot of competition, and we'll see how that plays out. But it's been a blast so far.
Also, being in scenes with those two is a Pantene commercial. Just their hair and just it's unreal.
It's herbal essence, Kat. Get it right, okay?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Gabrielle, you were just up to a series regular in June, so you'd already been filming this. So how did that come about? And did you and Matt realize, like, even from just the pilot, I like this couple?
Yeah. I did not know that I was going to be up to a series regular. It kind of just came out of nowhere. So that was really exciting. I don't want to give much away between me and Matt, but it's definitely a joy working with Matt. There's definitely chemistry there. But I don't want to speak too much and give too much away, but there's definitely some twists that come with my character. What's been really fun is just kind of exploring a girl trying to find her own independence from her family, from her very like traditional family. And I think there's a little bit of her that's similar to Justin's character in that it's hard for her to come to town. It's hard for her to kind of like leave her family and figure out who she is apart from her family. But yeah, there's a lot to explore.
And Kelly, Justin looks like the cover of a romance novel.
It's true.
And it's unsettling.
Good word. Yeah,
only
good word.
Town, I'm thinking, right? Like there's other guys wandering around.
There definitely is. There's definitely a lot of hair blowing in the wind. There's definitely a lot of cuties in town, and Lucia's definitely trying to find her way, and maybe with a guy, maybe without. So,
Greg, you're coming in as a character that the relative of a character that we already know from the last season of Walker. The Davidsons. I'll be honest, Seamus and Jared, I hated them. I thought that I did not like that family. I thought they were such pains in the ass.
Yeah.
But it's just like,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, it's not.
Are the Davidsons just a bad bloodline?
Well, I mean, like we explain the ancestry of it, right? We kind of illustrate the roots of it. And yeah, Tom Davidson is a pain in the ass, definitely. But it's in this rendition, he's kind of charming doing it. And it's kind of confusing as well.
Greg, I think that's just your charm. You know?
I don't know, maybe, but it's this weird.
Yeah.
Like all I will say, it's like
I'm gonna cover the mouth if you say something wrong.
The villain, right? Just going on this whole unconventional approach to a Western, may not always be as villainous as portrayed, right? So, and I think that's one of the joys of playing the villain for the first time. It's such a joy because it's all speculation until you get the new script of the new episode and you understand like where it comes from, his ulterior motive, why he's here. Because I'm learning it as I go as well. So, it's so exciting in that sense, where you get the writing all of a sudden and it's like, okay, we talked about that. I kind of anticipated that, or oh, that's a surprise. We went a different direction. But the way the writers present it is like pure brilliance. And it's like Christmas morning, every time you get that new thing, you're like, because I think as a villain, it's like, we got to understand like where it all comes from.
Well, and to follow
not a villain. You're misunderstood.
Yeah.
I know it's just this unconventional approach to this, and I think
the Walker
what both of them have said, it's the this great element that Seamus and Jared and everyone and the writers' room have created, is that you have these characters and in this world that's so black and white and life and death and the stakes are so high. But what that does is it forces all of these characters, heroes, villains, or somewhere in between, to make choices that put them in that gray area. No one's perfect and no one's 100% in the right or the wrong. And it makes for fun for all of us to play, and hopefully interesting stories for characters or for the audience to watch.
In real life, Greg is also the gentlest baby of all time. So like going into work with him when he's terrifying, every once in a while you just get this little shift of like, hi.
It's weird. It's become a thing a little bit, like when, between like action and cut, it's like I go into this like place, which is so fun to experiment with. But in my real life, like I'm just bubbly and
we know Gregory.
So it's kind of a trip to watch that, experience that when when everyone at this point knows me so well and I'm nothing like the character. But I think that's the craft that we've been working on for so long, is to be able to turn it on and off, right? Not to hang on to such dark things. But it's kind of a fun trip to turn on and off like that. It's really an exciting.
The Walker shows now, I mean, I've learned enough from the original show, like never write off a character as what we're first told about them. No. Like they're never just that. And so when I was watching it and the reveal that happens in the first episode, I was like, there's got to be something more. There's something else here, because I know that in Walker world, like everybody has something behind their first impression. And Augustus, I'm still trying to figure out what that is and how much is he aware of what Tom Davidson is capable of.
To not give away, you're gonna put them out. Okay. To not give away much. Augustus is a very smart and I won't say sneaky, but he's aware of a lot of things. He may not say it, but it's just kind of like, you pick and choose your battles. And when it's time for that battle, you go for blows. So, it's an interesting character to play. Very different from myself, because if I see something, I'll definitely say something. But yeah, so it's definitely an interesting character to play, but also to before signing on and becoming a part of this amazing cast, just talking to Seamus was a big thing for me, because from a minority standpoint, especially when it came to Westerns, you normally had the sidekick storyline. You normally had you were the cream on top of the coffee. Yeah. And I was very adamant, and Seamus was very adamant about being authentic to this story and actually just Augustus being his own individual character. To me, which is more than I could ask for, because I do feel a sense of responsibility, especially being able to go back to a time where racism was a thing. Prejudice, there were so many things that you had to deal with from a Black perspective, and to have a character who isn't just going to be pushed around or a sidekick or, again, the cream on top of the coffee is absolutely fantastic.
So how historically accurate is this? Would we have seen a Black man working in law enforcement in the late 1800s?
Well, see, I mean, you have to think about it. Back in the 1800s, primarily it was Black. I mean, you had of course you had white, you had Latino, you had some Asian as well. This is we're doing a mixture. We're doing a remix. That is the biggest word. Yeah. We're doing a remix on what reality was and what Westerns were in media. So.
Yeah, the diversity of it just makes it such a multifaceted, and again, like that word unconventional, but like there's so much diversity, and each plot line has so much weight to it, and all connect in such a, again, brilliant way. And I mean, that's something new to me in Westerns.
Yeah, we're trying to look for like a slight departure from what we've seen, but look at, the margins of history books of like 250 Chinese laborers showed up in Texas around this time. 1/3 of cowboys were Black. I've never seen either one of those portrayed. on television. So it's like exploring those little, lines in entire books. They're just a passage or two.
Right.
Why don't we explore that? Why don't we see what happened and get different points of view of characters?
Well, that's I keep going back to it being unexpected. Like there are certain moments in the show where it's just like, oh, and so when Lawrence, when you tell Abby, like how you came to independence, I'm like, oh, okay, what is that? And then I actually had to like go Google if that was actually a thing. But this is for you, Lawrence. How did you kind of assure yourself that, much like Philemon, like this character wasn't just going to be kind of like a quota character?
I just saw it as a good opportunity to represent people that looked like me back in the 1800s, and a lot of the Chinese built like pretty much like all the railroads and connected everything. So. Yeah. It was just, I thought it was a good opportunity to play someone and rep my people. And
well, you
having a blast doing it. What?
You had conversations. You asked I remember we talked about this. You asked some serious questions and I wanted to make sure that we were accurately doing this. Right. And just an opportunity to play someone that, to be in a Western, like a Chinese person in a Western, we can see that. And so it's just, even though we existed and we were here, and then,
Right.
Yeah.
And it's also, I also had to go Google tofu. I honestly had no idea how old tofu was.
As much as we talk about this being a remix, I think it's really important to remember that it is also just in terms of who is here, who lives in this town, who is interacting. There are multiple histories. There are queer histories. There are Black histories. There are East Asian histories. There are Latinx histories happening, Indigenous histories, all at the same time in this environment. And as much as we say that it's a remix, it is also just nodding to the fact that the whole time white people were writing these stories about this frontier, there were entire other books and books and books of cultures that we could have been listening to, learning about. Everybody was here this whole time. Mm-hmm. So it's a window and an exploration through, I think, modern connections to that time period, that people are getting to settle back into this genre where they don't get to see themselves represented and have, again, like we say about our showrunners and our producers, we get to do it in a way where we feel seen and respected, and it can be scary. I think everybody's leaning on each other and trusting each other and moving as courageously and vulnerably as possible, which when you deal with this kind of subject material can be kind of intense. So that's what I think about that.
There you go.
there you go.
To touch on really quickly what a lot of the cast has already touched on, but to kind of nail it forward, as much as we call it a remix, likely this was probably more realistic. It wasn't about a guy who looks like me or Matt Barr coming in and I'm going to save this town. There were people existing, finding themselves on a new frontier. There were different cultures. There were different families. There were different groupings. And so as much as we kind of lovingly call it a remix, this is probably more realistic than a lot of the classic Westerns we've seen. And kudos to Seamus and to our amazing cast, because, obviously Walker Independence is largely through the eyes of Abby Walker, but each of these characters could have their own TV show. I would watch a show about every single one of these characters today. I mean, they all have, and humans are messy, and they're not just messy now in 2022 with social media and Zooming from different states. We've been messy forever. We're primates. We have good qualities. We have bad qualities. We make good decisions. We make poor decisions. And it's complicated. And the way it all is woven together when you're around different people with different nature and nurture is fascinating. And so each one of these actors and actresses has such a deep character from the get. From episode one, from the time we meet them on camera, they're so fleshed out. And kudos to Seamus and his gang of riders that help set that stage. And kudos to our cast, who is just to a person incredible.
I've seen so many pilots, and honestly, this feels like it could have been like third episode.
Yeah.
Where
it could have been
like the actors are living in these characters by the time we first meet them. And Kate, especially, like she's fascinating to me because there's something going on there, and I don't want to reveal any of it. But when I first found out, I was like, wait, what? I love that, like, but that's just one of these many fascinating characters. I want to know more about these characters, and I know none of you can spoil anything. And though we do know how certain family heritages work, I do want to know some technical stuff, but like the fun stuff, like who is the best at cowboy school? Like who got high marks?
I think the horses are the real MVP. The horses, and we have an amazing team of horse wranglers and trainers and folks that, you know, those of us with a lot of experience, those of us with a little bit of experience. You know, I rode a little bit during Girl Scout camp, but that's about it. You know, so we're all learning so much, and it's that's one of my favorite things about this set is it is so immersive. You know, from the wardrobe to the sets to how much each and every person cares about these characters. The number of discussions I've had with each and every one of you about our characters and their relationships and backstories and potential things and ideas, and just as Jared and Seamus were speaking about before, the creative collaboration that exists on this set and in our Windy fam, as we call it, is one of the most exciting things. And I you know, hopefully we'll be here for several years to be able to bring all of these ideas and stories to fruition, but there are endless possibilities here. But yes, Cowboy Camp was fantastic.
Yeah, much like pushing Sundance. Yeah, much like pushing Sundance, like Matt and Callian and Hoy, we're trying to push that bar, you know, and Seamus is probably getting too much from us. We're like, let's do this. Let's do that.
Just we're rehearsing once where I'm riding on the back of the horse with him, and so this horse is pretty wicked, like a pretty badass horse, and so we curved around this tree pretty hard, going like, you know, like full gallop, and so I'm just going to my left, like falling off. And this is what a stud Justin is. He like grabs me while riding the, you know, the horse and kind of pulls me back onto the back. And it was such like as Hoyt would go, wouldn't want to admit that Callian just saved his life. So I was like,
and we weren't even supposed to be doing that for the show. That was just us doing it for fun.
That's the worry is like these jokers get in cowboy camp and they go back to like the childhood version of what they wanted to be.
That's
and they can't help themselves.
Right.
All the producers are freaking out about, oh my God.
It's fun. It's fun to be on a horse.
That having been said, y'all probably still shouldn't have told that story in front of me and Seamus.
I didn't say any. I just want to go on camera saying I didn't say anything like that. So I can't. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm Philly, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, Philly. I'm Philly, blah, blah, blah.
I think it's a good time for Seamus and I to talk about on-set safety.
Yeah.
Come on.
So Justin, when I asked the question about Cowboy Camp, you immediately pointed at Gabriela. So Gabriela, what did you bring?
You look really good on a horse. You got to see her on a horse. Yeah, she looks amazing.
I've unfortunately only had one day on Cowboy Camp, but I need to get back on it. I used to ride and I haven't ridden in a really long time. So just being able to get on a horse for like the first time in years was really nice and really exciting. And I really hope that Seamus, you will have me riding horses very soon.
Your family works at a ranch, so it's a high likelihood she will.
Yeah.
I want to go to Cowboy Camp.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, some of us.
You're gonna go to Cowboy Camp on camera though, so that's the important.
Oh man.
Hinting at where we might go with that.
I can't wait
My
for
chin
that.
can't tip any higher.
Huh?
As far as
All right.
All right.
I don't know if anyone in the audience noticed, but we did in fact exit the premises when people started talking about Cowboy Camp, because there's been a big
Yeah, I did. You guys both
between those of us who got to go to Cowboy Camp. Even on the carpet, we'll be like, they're like, so Cowboy Camp, and Lawrence will rearrange how we're standing so that Lawrence and I can sit like this while everybody else talks about how cool they are all the time. I threatened to leave the show, but I think it would break my heart, so I can't. But
yeah. Okay, so for you and Gabriella and Kat, how are the corsets?
Oh,
There we go. There's a soft lob to Katie Finlay.
no one's fainted yet.
I don't know. I have an analogy for the corsets, but it's you know the thunder coats that dogs wear for like night.
Yes.
That's sort of what it is all day long. It's like a nice hug. This is true. This is for like 20 minutes, and then you're like, fuck, like I can't breathe. And
The dresses are like bed.
bruised, and I can't sit, and I can't eat, and it's tough.
Gabby and I are the same. Gabby and I, like, we're very sensitive people. When we met, we were like, are you me in a different font? But it's something about being so physically altered, because I do like the structure. Like, weirdly, it does feel like armor. Like you feel structured and held, and like it changes how you stand. And it's like, I wouldn't not want to have them. But man, oh, holy man, could I ever do without seeing a bustle ever again in my life? By the end of the day, I'm sore, like I really did something. And sometimes all I do is walk by and go, well, gosh, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm going to, and it's but Lawrence, Kat, and I always talk about, it's come up like 900 times. You weren't here. When Lawrence finally realized how much we wear, like how many layers, and how at us with this like longing, this exhausted man longing in his eyes, and he went, "You guys are like beds," and we are. We are.
Oh my God.
And that's, I mean, shout out to Marion Toy, who is our incredible costume designer, who she and her team have just created the most beautiful pieces for each and every one of our characters that are also quite historically accurate. And, you know, to speak to what Katie was saying, there is something to the posture and the structure. It changes how you walk, how you move, how you behave, how you move about a space, which is a lot of what the character is. But it is interesting to live life in that realm, but I sort of enjoy it.
So is it the same for the guys with their cowboy boots? As soon as you put them on, you guys walk a little different?
My course is different.
Although Matt Barr has a story about this.
Matt, you want to go first? Go ahead.
Well, no, there's two things: the cowboy boots and the gun belt. Something about that gun belt. The minute you put that on, all of a sudden
when you
it's
put
like
that on,
swagger and like you're Wyatt Earp. It's pretty fun.
Matt, you wear the corset. I'll wear the gun belt. Let's
right. I was doing a stunt where I was trying to jump off a wagon with those boots, and you realize they're really not. They're not Nikes, you know.
Yeah.
So we
okay.
Yeah.
The boots.
So I have to wrap you guys, but first I want to, as I'm sitting here talking and watching you guys, and this clearly you guys are having more fun than you probably should with the amount of hours that you're working. Jared and Seamus, have you even considered, like, you could do a flashback episode on Walker with all of these actors?
Yes, we have.
Something like that. Yeah.
Flashback, flash forward.
We're trying to figure out the most creative way to do a crossover, if you will, where it's not like, do you remember when? Yeah. I've seen them a million times, but it's picking the right time in the season to do that. There's a certain amount of story we want to tell on Independence before we get there, and along the way set up enough Easter eggs and tips of the hat, if you will. But yeah, we're dying to do it. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm dying to put on a corset.
Do it.
I'm dying to wear a corset.
That somewhere.
I have a corset and gun belt.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I want to thank all of you for taking this time. To all of you watching, I cannot tell you, like, this show is going to surprise you. This is not your normal Western. It's fun, it's funny, and the whole remix idea really is, and like, it never feels like it's trying to like be modern, but there are such great pops of inventive ways to do a new story. I'm really excited about this, and I'm really excited for the Walker family to get on board. So thank you all for joining us for this very special PaleyFest Fall TV Preview conversation with the wonderful cast of Walker Independence. And thank you once again to City for their support. You can enjoy more of these programs by clicking the subscribe button below. Thank you so much, and take care. And do not miss Walker Independence this fall on the CW.
Thank you.
Thanks, Damian.